Hey there, Bible class. I wish I really was standing in our classroom looking out at you guys this morning. I really do miss you. And this feels like a really long time since we were all together at school, because it is kind of a long time. And I hope all of you are doing well. I hope your families are doing well. I know this has been a challenging time. Some of you, it's been harder for your family than for others. It's all very different from family to family. And just thinking of you guys, praying for you all, and really excited though for y'all to finish your 6th grade year. I wish that I was going to get to give you a big high five, all you guys, and a hug to you girls, and enjoy celebrating the end of the year together. But whether we're together or not, it's going to happen. And you guys, in just a few short weeks, are going to be moving forward into your officially being in summer, no more online school to do, and hopefully things will start to get easier and we'll be able to get out and about a little bit more. But I do want you to know I really am missing you, and I hope that you're doing well. So send me an email or whatever if you'd like. But today I want us to move forward and just be encouraged together by the book of Colossians, because it's very encouraging what we're going to be talking about today. So we've talked, about these. This is the 4th book this week. Galatians we did on Tuesday, and then Ephesians, and then Philippians, and then Colossians. And I just think it's kind of cool for us to just march through each day a different book of the Bible, and you learn a little bit, and us hit some of the highlights of it. So Colossians has something in common with Ephesians and Philippians. And all 3 of these books were written while Paul was in prison. Now, he was in prison not in a cell. He was actually in Rome, the city of Rome in Italy. And he was living very much like we're living right now. He was housebound. They had a little house that he lived in. Guards were there to keep him from going out. And he was kind of in a stay-in-place situation, very similar to what we're doing right now. So we have, it's not often that we can feel like we really have something in common with the New Testament writers, but we really can right now. So Paul was in prison there for about 2 years in a rented home, and people could come and visit him, and he could write letters. So that's what he did, and he just seized the opportunity that he had to witness and reach out to the people there in Rome. And when he had been in Ephesians, he had many people came to become Christians while he was in Ephesians for those few years. One of those was named Epaphras, and Epaphras felt led by God to then go to another city about 100 miles away called Colossians. And Colossians was a smaller city. It was not called Colossians, it was called Colossae, And the people there were Gentiles. They were not Jewish. And Epaphras was trying to teach them, but they had some confusion about some really basic, important things. So Epaphras went to Rome, and he asked Paul to write this letter to the Colossians. And so Paul did. So we have this letter that's shorter. It's only 4 chapters. And it is very personal. He calls people by specific names. He names them and speaks to them in this letter. But a real focus theme of this letter, or the important emphasis that he has, is we find in Colossians 1, in the very beginning, in this first chapter, he says he wants them to understand that Jesus is Lord over everything, and that he's the Lord of creation, and he's the head of the church. And here I'll read what's on the screen. Jesus is the image of the invisible God. He's the firstborn over all creation. For by him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things were created by him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. this earth as it spins like a marble in space. Jesus is holding this together by his power. And, you know, that even this passage kind of takes us back, makes us remember Genesis 1, where it talks about God creating the earth, and it was through the word that he spoke. And in the New Testament, we learn that Jesus is that word. He's that how God's expressing and revealing himself in this world. And so Colossians 1 is Paul making this really clear to the people in Colossae. But then he goes on to encourage them that they need to live this new life that they've been called to. He says that you set your mind on things above, not on earthly things. And that you are called into this new life, that you're living with God, and that there's a new way for you to live. And, you know, we talked about Paul using analogies about jars of clay or our bodies like tents that are going to, you know, wear out and be replaced in eternity with something much better. Well, here he's talking about clothing. And he's talking about our old self, this way that we are in our sin, without God in our lives. It's like old clothes. Just think about, like, you know, some old clothes you have or old clothes you used to have, and like you just hate them. You even laugh if you see pictures, right? So these old clothes that they don't fit us anymore now. That and that certainly happens to you guys, right? There's so many of your clothes that you all have grown out of as you all are growing so much right now. And so he says, rid yourselves of all these old things from your old life: anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips. Don't lie to each other, since you've taken off your old self with its practices, and you've put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion and kindness and humility and gentleness and patience. Bear with each other. Forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. So I want you all to think about these verses. I have them on a document for you today to take a look at. I have another translation as well. I want you all just to kind of work through these verses a little bit and think about them and think about how they apply to you. You know, for some of you, you have been in the church, and you have parents who make sure that you are learning and encouraging your faith, and many of you have people in your life other than your parents, maybe youth group leaders, or maybe it's brothers or sisters, or hopefully all of you can think of people close to you that are encouraging you to know and love God. And some of you, though, you know, you're at an age, as I shared with you all this year, I became a Christian when I was about your age. I'd been going to church my whole life, but it was only when I was about your age that it actually started to make sense. And I started to understand it more as God started to work in my life and heart. And so I pray for you guys that as you work through these verses and think about God's love for you, and that this new life that he's given us and made possible for us through Christ, that you all want to live that new life. And for all of us, every day, that we'll want to deepen and grow. And so this verse from Colossians I have on my mind right now for you all, that for those of you who've received Christ as your Lord and Savior, and for those of you who haven't, I pray that you would continue to live in him, rooted and built up in him, strengthened in the faith as you were taught, and overflowing with thankfulness. And so I just have that verse in my mind for y'all today, praying that for you. And I hope that you have a great day. Get your work done. Stay on top of it. And know that you are down to almost just 10 days left, you guys. 10 days. That's it. Finish strong. You can do it. And I will see you on Monday. Bye.